Hey everyone, how's it going? So unless you're just for some reason not human, you already know what a tier list is, and you know the purpose that it serves. And that brings us to the point of this video. I'm going to rank every medal of Bug Fables to Everlasting Sapling against each other and try to figure out which medals are the best and which medals are the worst. There are lots of different archetypes for medals in this game, and as a result, to be fair to all these medals, I'm going to split this series into 5 different parts. Those 5 different categories in particular being offensive, defensive, bug-specific, miscellaneous, and special. I will explain all these categories as the series goes along, but if you want to see all of them when they come out, remember to subscribe down below. But to illustrate, it makes a lot less sense to compare something like, say, Poison Attacker with Front Support, because they fulfill very different purposes in combat. One is clearly offensive while the other is clearly defensive. A more fair comparison would be something like, say, V's Heavy Throw skill versus Kabu's Mightier Pebble, or something like, say, Crazy Prepared and Bug Me Not. As always, remember that this is only my opinion, so if you have your own opinion you want to get out there, remember to comment so down below. And lastly, well, it's not very easy to transition from the actual introduction to the actual list, so just to make this easier on myself, well, first off, lower your volume, and now, it's showtime! Now, Poison Attacker is indisputably the best offensive medal in the game. Being poisoned sounds like a terrible prospect in most video games, but Bug Fables makes being afflicted by a status ailment a strategy in and of itself. And nothing is scarier than being the victim of a poison bug with the various medals that build on the poison status. The fact of the matter is that a flat +1 to your attack stat while being poisoned becomes much more deadly when just about every member of Team Snakemout can strike multiple times with at least one of their attacks, if not more. It's only helped further that there are various medals that take advantage of poison, making it an extremely versatile status in general. Seriously, with this, Poison Defender, Reverse Toxin, Eternal Venom, and Weak Stomach, you already have the 5 cards needed to summon Exodia. And that's no exaggeration. And this medal is strictly cheaper than every other offensive medal in the game, while also being the earliest available. There are very few downsides here. Even ignoring Weak Stomach, every bounty is capable of poisoning you, so unless you're fighting maybe the final boss, you have almost no reason to ignore this medal. It may as well be a must-equip for every fight. While not my favorite medal, favorite one is a very potent medal in its own right. If the equipped bug is attacked or takes damage from enemies, bosses, or status elements, the other 2 bugs will gain +1 charge. Unlike Poison Attacker, this medal is much more easy to use on its own, thanks to tactics like Kabu's Taunt plus Lee's Bubble Shield Light, making it very flexible and excellent versus bosses that like area of effect moves like Mother Chomper. With other medals, it pairs well with Poison thanks to the passive damage triggering this medal's effect. Poison Defender also helps to mitigate the reduced defense, and Status Relay can be useful if you want to only focus on one bug being an attacker, by allowing you to relay the boost from one bug that's receiving them to the other. It's a fantastic all-around medal which does not even need much help to be viable. Just be aware that if the other 2 bugs get KO'd, this medal is only going to serve as a handicap, but that's really the only drawback. Fantastic medal all around, and one of the best offensive medals in the game. Power Exchange is literally the equivalent to Paper Mario's PFD down. It increases your attack as well as the damage you take by 1 point. However, it isn't an easy S tier medal in my opinion compared to the previous 2 because of the medal cost and it only affecting 1 bug over all 6 or 7 of your partners, like if it was any of the Paper Mario games. And that's only dependent on whether or not you're willing to count Miss Mouse or not, because it's not that she's any good. Not to say it isn't justified though, as it was a very cheap medal being only 2 BP in those games, but we're getting sidetracked. In a game where Kabu's Taunt exists, this medal has very clear applications with stopping it on a bug that's going to be doing a lot of damage while using Kabu to protect them by redirecting attacks. Doing this effectively would negate the medal's weakness, which is also really handy with your HP increasing so slowly in this game. In a way, it simulates how you can swap out partners with ease to hit harder, but here it impacts your TP to taunt, so it's significantly better balanced. To say nothing of the massive HP pools that partners will have, if you were to add them all collectively up. That being said, the drop to your defense, while it can be pretty touchy, Hard Charge is much more radical in both its effect and its drawback. This medal maxes your charge status, but will cost you 5 of your HP. Yep, this medal hurts you to use it. This comes with an obvious drawback, in that you can only use this medal so often before being forced to heal yourself with either items, HP cores, or these stash moves. And it also puts you in danger of being KO'd more easily because, well, your health is lower. And it doesn't help that using this metal triggers exhaustion too, so to get the maximum effect, you need to supplement this metal with either something like Status Relay or just wait a whole turn. It's not a bad metal by any stretch, but you do have to be more strategic when using it. The fact that it reduces your HP by 5 also gives it some notable advantages. There's a very real advantage to gaining 3 extra points of damage, especially if you're using either Leaf or V. The damage adds up very fast, and it gets even better when combined with the danger badge medals like Last Stand and Last Attack. And speaking of the latter, well, Last Attack is basically a nerfed power rush, increasing your attack power when your HP falls to 4 or less. Not only is it quadruple the price as it is in Paper Mario, but it only has half the power boost, only adding 1 point of attack. This makes the medal unviable just to slap on its filler, as it's both relatively expensive to poison attacker and does not have that much of an effect anyway. But like Hard Charge, this medal is by no means bad, though to get the most out of it requires learning how to manipulate your HP to a low number. This medal actually pairs well with Hard Charge if he's Heavy Throw if you need a way to quickly reduce your HP below 5, and it also gives genuine incentives to focus on keeping HP lower when leveling up. Defensive badges like Last Stand also help a lot here if you're trying to keep my HP at a low value but aren't very good at guarding, but by the time you have access to Last Stand, you have much better options in general for combat. Just wait till we talk about all the defensive medals in this game. Overall, it's a good medal, but it's also pretty niche. Just be careful when using it, or your last attack may end up with you being knocked out shortly afterwards. Oh, and to build on Last Stand earlier, first and foremost, thank you for watching this far into the video, it really means a lot to me. And the next pile of medals I'm going to talk about in Bug Fables is going to be about defensive medals. But if for some reason you want to choose the next category of medals to talk about, remember to comment so down below so I know what you want to see. It also helps this video in the search engine in case people want to search for videos like this. And now on to the next tier down. Our next meta for scrutiny is Antlion Jaws, which powers up the damage the equipped bug does against enemies with defense. Only if they have defense. Think of this medal like it grants the properties of Kabu's horn minus the ability to flip, but it only impacts the basic attack, unlike basically every other medal introduced up to now. Honestly, I can't think of a single time I ever felt like this medal was ever worth using. Granted, there are plenty of bosses with defense like Dune Scorpion, the Beast, Zasp, and Ultimax Tank, but the fact that it only works for your basic attack really holds it back in my eyes. A move with a base power of 2 is really low in a game where you're often forced to use TP to do any meaningful damage, and to dedicate 5 whole meta points to equip it, it just does not seem worth it to me. Honestly, I only see 2 real upsides to this medal. Namely that A, it stacks with Kabu's horn powering up against enemies with natural defense, and B, when you can only use your basic attack. Speaking of which, Berserker is a medal that is nothing short of wild. It immediately boosts your attack power by 3, but it removes your ability to use defensive action commands, skills, items, turn relays, and B relay turns too. So pretty much your only option is your basic attack. This doesn't stop your partners from involving you in team attacks though, so for example, if you gave Leaf Berserker and had V use Frost Relay, you'll get the best of both worlds as its power will be massive and you'll get much more damage and value for your TP. However, this medal is extremely double-edged. Status elements become much more dangerous when you can't guarantee blocking the effect, and while Team Statemouth has superb defensive skills, losing access to them can leave the Berserk bug in a bad spot. The fact this medal costs a massive 6 meta points does not help either. This medal is very niche, but if you need to do a lot of damage in little time, it can be worked with. Just make sure that you're able to keep the Berserk bug alive and you'll be golden. Otherwise, all that rage, and you are most likely going to find yourself getting burned out. And that's my list so far. Thank you for watching, remember to leave a like, and I'll see you next time, alright?